Great, thank you. Commissioners, in your packet are the minutes of the Monday, May 9th, 2016 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, our first item, we have a presentation regarding Los Angeles City Health Commission annual report by David Boynes, who is the director of the Institute for Community Health and Wellbeing from California State University, Northridge. David, welcome.
Yeah.
So just to put this in context for people who are listening on audio, Cal State Northridge's Health Institute has secured a grant in order to provide staff and research for our annual report.
For allowing me to come and talk about the annual report today. Hear me okay? Okay. Yeah, thank you for allowing me to. I think I went out. No, the annual report again today. I wanted to tell you a little bit about my background, tell you a little bit about the Institute for Community Health and Wellbeing at CSUN, and then to field some questions that you have about the development of the annual report, what you see are its goals, and how it might serve the best interests of the Commission. So I am a professor of sociology. My training is, and my PhD is in sociology. I've been at California State University, Northridge for about 15 years. I have an expertise and background in evaluation research, and that spans about 20 years. I'm the current director of the Institute for Community Health and Wellbeing. The Institute for Community Health and Wellbeing is a consortium of faculty and students that works in an engaged way with the community in the San Fernando Valley, but also in broader city of Los Angeles. The focus is to generate creative inquiry and research inquiry into health and well-being in a wide array of facets in Los Angeles and in the San Fernando Valley. One of our strengths at CSUN is that we have and in particular with the Institute for Community Health and Wellbeing, is that we have a fairly large and engaged cadre of faculty in a broad range of disciplines, from sociology to psychology to social work, public health, geography, and the list can grow, who work with us in an engaged way. We also have a group of graduate students who also work with us and work with faculty who are our affiliates. We've been approached and have had some discussion about developing the annual report for the Commission. We have an idea of what the structure might look like and of your needs. We understand that the report will be developed in consultation and collaboration with the Commission and the Commission subgroups, and are really interested in opening up some dialogue about the development of that report and what you see are the purposes and needs for that report.
Great, thank you. Okay, at this point we will entertain questions from the commissioners regarding the annual report, research, and writing. Are there any questions for David?
Which reports or resources are already available in terms of what's happening with the health in the city of Los Angeles?
Yeah, so we've been looking into some reports that might be accessible to us, and that might be good resources. We also would ask for the wisdom of the Commission in looking at additional reports. In particular, we've been looking at the Health Atlas for the city of Los Angeles. We've also been looking for the plan for a healthy Los Angeles. And there are similar reports that we've been assessing the utility of for the purposes of developing the annual report.
And this one too? The
Yes.
county's report?
Yes, exactly, yes.
Commissioner Sharp?
No.
I'm sorry.
sorry.
Commissioner Hester.
A question. This survey document that was passed out now, is that one that you all have developed, or is that's separate?
That's
Okay.
us.
That's us. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. So you have not other than sort of doing the background work, you haven't really gotten into doing this yet.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
Any other questions? Commissioner Sharp?
While I cannot respond to your solicitation for wisdom, I can offer a modicum of input. If I may, there are 4 requirements in the ordinance for this production of an annual plan. One is to establish the health needs of residents. Another is to establish information about how the city's doing, what are the health goals, and then ultimately a strategic plan, which is a way of, I guess, saying operationalizing the goals. And as it relates to the health needs, we've received input over a number of months now from a variety of stakeholders across the spectrum of city and county agencies and community organizations. There seems to be consensus that the health needs as measured by the Health Atlas are fairly comprehensive. There's only been one presentation that's noted needs, i.e. ways of benchmarking, the current status, that wasn't included, and that has to do with the transmission of infectious diseases. So I'd encourage you all to at least consider, at this phase of consideration, how that can be grafted in as an important area that's come to our attention but was not captured in one of the other measures.
Okay.
So that's sort of a thought on the first stage, which is establishing what are the measures of health.
Great.
Fortunately, there's been a lot of work done to accomplish that. The phase around identifying what on earth would be the goals can potentially also be captured through the Plan for Healthy LA that you referenced, which the City Council adopted exactly a year ago. So it's relatively contemporary. Commissioner Andrews Taylor held up one of what I think are 3 county strategic plans that propose a series of goals that are obviously on behalf of county departments, but given that 40% of the county residents are in the city, certainly city residents' needs may be, or goals for improving their health may be addressed in there. So that's sort of one other way of looking at that. And then as it relates to the strategic plan to achieve the goals, it, I guess, would be my question to you, because I know President Shan was asking us to ask questions, so I'm finally getting to the question. What sort of detail is customary in the products that you do as it relates to articulating specific plans to achieve those goals? What's the sort of language that we can provide you guidance or input on that's consistent with how you've approached this in the past? There's just a range of approaches within the business of strategic planning, and if we can at least have a meeting of the minds about what particular language would be applicable and appropriate for this process, our input can be tailored in a relevant fashion.
Yeah, and in this process, I think it's important for CSUN, for the Institute for Community Health and Wellbeing, to see us as clients of the work that you would like produced. And so so we can work with any kind of strategic planning output and language and format and detail that you think is most useful for your purposes. It's part of your charter. And so I think it may be important for the commission to have an understanding of what the strategic plan might look like, and then the level of detail for the responses.
So, for example, the recent homeless strategy that the city adopted was divided into basically actions that were tiered on the basis of who would take the actions. There were county actions, actions for city council to take legislatively, and then actions for city departments. I think the premise behind that, I can't speak on the CAO's office behalf, but I believe the premise is to simply organize it by the different audiences who will be reading it. And I think that's a standard format in government strategic plans, is to think about who's the consumer.
Yep.
The consumer could be community partners, could be the medical community, but one possible option is to organize it along the lines of that recent city report, which looks at the 3 audiences of local government.
Yep.
That would be the likely readers and therefore the likely actors. And I have sort of one last vein, which is a brand new paragraph, so I pause. What is the I guess, capacity resource-wise from your contract or arrangement with us to look at data points. Just in the 2 years since, actually now 3 years really, since the Health Atlas was published, there's been an enormous amount of progress on the city level and on the county level at implementing open data directives. And as a result, the various city and county departments have actually uploaded, or basically for the most part, spreadsheets. Some of it is tabulated and summarized and organized for people like us to make sense of, but much of it is sort of the locations of services, the number of people by health district that have been afflicted with. What's the team's capacity from the contract standpoint to take advantage of, basically, the enormous treasure trove of open data that's rolled out that could augment the 2013 baseline with more recent measures of the health status?
Yeah, the capacity for us to do the analysis is clearly there. We have that kind of expertise. I think that our game plan is to work with the individual subgroups and to see how deeply that we should drill down into those data sets. If we need to drill down into those data sets, it's absolutely possible for us to answer the kind of questions that you might have.
Well, I guess it's less of a sort of a question we have than we have, or I should say, the city has published these benchmarks for the health status of residents in the year 2013, many of which are based on 2010 data points. Now we have the benefit of 2015 data points that could be used to update those benchmarks. So it's less about how deep we want to go than how recent, I think, would be the other way to look at it. All those data points have relevance to policymakers almost entirely related to how recent they are. Folks are not representing the year 2010, they're kind of contemporary. So the extent that it's possible to update those data points.
Yep, I think that's great.
And I'm happy to be a liaison with the county's data person, Jim Green, who has published something called the Big Cities Health Initiative, where LA is actually measured against other large cities around the nation on a bunch of these health indicators that they are doing, and they've committed to uploading all these spreadsheets as quickly as they're collected. So there's some new tools available to you that were not available the last time that the California Endowment did this in 2013.
Okay, Commissioner Mandel.
Thank you for being here, and more importantly, thank you for what you're going to do over the next period of time. Clearly, your education, training, and experience is one that will be beneficial to what we're trying to do. The concern I have is from the reports we've been given over the last 8 months or so, that oftentimes the city departments are given data or collect data that is inaccurate or substandard from what you and I would consider to be really scientific. And there's big gaps in it, and or alternatively, they're not getting all the data to address the issue at hand. So how do you feel, given the fact that the county for so many years has been addressing health, and for 200 years the city has not really addressed it, that we can assure that the data that we do analyze is in fact accurate and totally complete?
Yep, that's a big question and a complicated question. I think that I want to come back to the subgroups and to really make sure that we're drawing on sources of data that the subgroups have put on the table for us. This is the conversation that we've had in working with the subgroups and making sure that the report is defined by the data that the subgroups have been considering. So I think that's one most important kind of avenue. Another is also we can look at big data. We can look at data that is quantitative, but we also want to make sure that the data comes alive in the way that that we hear the voices of the members of Los Angeles. And so by incorporating testimonial data as well is another way to triangulate our results for accuracy.
Thank you.
Great. So I actually have a question on the testimonials. So how do you see staff working with the commission and members of the community on the narrative portion for each of the issue sets? So in other words, if we have someone that we want to interview who has a specific story or narrative that matches the issue area that we're discussing, do you see staff going to a meeting with that person for the interview, or is it something that you would rather have conducted on the phone since we live in a very big city, or to do audio recordings? Just wondering sort of what the mechanism is to capture the interviews.
Yep, all those methods are possible. Preferential method would be a face-to-face interview. We have the staff capacity to do that. But I also think that it's important that those interviews are informed by the commission, members of the commission themselves, so that interviews might be conducted in the context of subgroup or working team discussions. And we have the capacity to do that as well. I'm not sure that completely answers your question, but there's a number of different methods that we can employ. I think the method that I would prefer is more of a method that's overseen by the commission.
Great.
If I
Commissioner
may
Hisrich.
again, John Hisrich. The charge to this commission was in many respects to review how the interrelationship between the city and the county is going in terms of health of the city. The mandate, or the agreement, which was signed in 1964, was pretty vague and basically said that the county was to now enforce the public health records or services, I beg your pardon. I'm still trying to get a grasp on how what you envision doing will address that. I mean, for example, one of the public health code issues is restaurant inspections and so on. Would you envision looking at something like that, how well it's being done, or is that something that really is not, something that we need to pay attention to? I just don't have a grasp of how. I mean, take one big issue that's come before us many times, housing and the homeless. Now we can get counts of the performance and the lack of performance by various agencies, including the county and the city, in addressing that. I'm not sure what the upshot of that would be at the end of doing a report from the Health Commission, other than to say, yes, it's a health issue. We need to look at it as a health issue, but I'm not sure where we go from there. I don't know if you have any take on that.
So there's a couple parts to your question.
I know.
Yeah, so let me try to come back to the first part if I can remember it. The way that we will approach this report is really in collaboration with the subgroups. So we really want to consider data as a focal point that are of interest to the subgroups. So I hope that addresses your first question, which is, should health codes be a centerpiece of the report? I think that's up to the commission, and that's up to the subgroups on the commission to kind of define the territory. And then we will work within the territory that the commission has defined. For the second part of your question.
Well, I was just about housing, homelessness.
Yeah, and clearly I think that affordable housing, homelessness will be a central issue of the report. Is it a need? What are the goals, right? What are the needs? And how does that fit into the strategic planning? I think that's the missing piece, is that last piece, is that how does that fit into strategic planning? And that articulating how needs and goals from the perspective of the commission articulate into strategic planning will help to draw those issues and bring them to the fore in a way that's useful for the city of Los Angeles and for the commission.
Okay, and I think just drawing on that, you would also say that we would be identifying solutions as well in the report. So we could identify needs, goals, and then some recommended solutions.
Yeah, which is part of the
context
strategic plan.
Each of those.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, I believe you had.
Commissioner Hawkins, thank you so much for taking this huge undertaking. I just had a point of clarification, and maybe Commissioner Sharp can answer this for me. When does this report due? Sharp, when is the report due?
The ordinance specifies the production of a report after a year of business.
So that would be November. Okay. Given the time constraints that we're looking at this report due in November of this year, wanted to try to get an idea of what it's going to look like in the abstract. I do echo my fellow commissioners talking about the issues of data being relevant as well as it being organic and up to date. But I'm trying to get an idea of this in a short period of time, how it's going to shake out. Is it going to be an issue of where we meet with you as far as putting together an outline and we discuss what the subheadings are going to be, and then going into the subcommittees? I'm just trying to get like a basic framework around how we're going to help you, and so we can deliver and get to goal in November.
The general plan that we've been working with is to work with the leadership team of the commission and, by default, the entire body of the commission to develop the general outline for the report. And then for my understanding is that there will be individual subgroups that will work. There are 4 or 5 subgroups that are working in specific
7.
areas. Is that correct?
There's 7.
7. So we will have representatives from our staff who are working with the individual subgroups in order to articulate the voice of those subgroups, the needs and interests of those subgroups, and then to fit them into the overall structure and outline of the report.
So roughly, what would you say, if I know it's just a rough draft right now, but what would you say an ideal timeline would look like to carry this out?
We have a tight timeline for November. And thinking through the timeline, the first step really depends upon when the subgroups will start meeting. They have started.
It should be in the next week or 2.
Yeah, in the next week or 2. So we will have members of staff working with those subgroups as soon as you're ready to go. The subgroups will meet through August and probably into September. And then writing in October with a delivery of the report by November.
Right. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions from the commissioners?
Just one friendly addendum to make your process a hair easier, nose easier, is that the first part of Commissioner Hisserich's question regarding this very elaborate 60-year-old, 50-year-old arrangement with the county for the county to enforce public health code is designated separately in our assignment. It's designated as a separate report back from us than the broader annual health services plan. So how we discussed a couple meetings ago, we're going to approach that is to survey some city departments, try and form a judgment as to the continuation of that agreement, and recommend that to City Council, which is sort of what's requested in the ordinance, separate from the production of it. It's a separate section of the ordinance. So my suggestion, would be, as we had agreed in April or March or whenever we talked about it, to continue pursuing that separately. The clerk's office has agreed to, or has today or tomorrow, queried general managers regarding their views of this agreement, and we can hopefully at the August or at latest September meeting form a judgment on that and make a quick recommendation back to City Council that wouldn't complicate the report. There are ongoing issues for the broader plan that involve how the city and county departments work together, but the narrower question of is the agreement to be retained, I think, is best addressed separately so that it doesn't become a strategic planning issue as a one-time check. General managers and city and health commission agree or don't agree to continue it.
And we can discuss what goes into the report in the future. We don't have to make that decision tonight. Okay, any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you, David Boynes, for coming, and we look forward to collaborating with you and with Cal State Northridge. Okay, I have 2 public comment cards. Armando Herman.
Since we're on the topic of well-being, it's been a pleasurable well-being knowing that homelessness is still a crisis in Los Angeles. What are you doing to resolve the problem of homelessness? I was up in Sacramento on June 27th when I was approached by two marshals who asked me, what the hell are you doing in Sacramento? I said, I'm here petitioning on behalf of homelessness, AB 1622, Mark Leno, for the record. We have some asshole named Herb Weston, and an elected official from Los Angeles, who's doing more harm to homeless people like myself, making us arrestees, calling us 422s, and trying to have us removed from public meetings, so not to address real issues like this. But in my cognitive intellectualness, I'm able to outthink the fucking Herb Weston and his
There
cronies.
are children in the audience, too.
Listen, man, this is a public meeting. This is real business. So if you don't like what you're hearing, step out now, because yes, this engages into the mental aspect of what goes on in my mind and any one of our minds. Just because you can hide behind a closed door doesn't make you any better than me. It doesn't make you any better than me. Any person here, like any person here who has a disability, you cannot discriminate against because you find our wording offensive. So don't censor me from anything you don't want to hear. I've heard it all. I spent 6 years in a county hospital working with assholes who do no service for the disabled or the injured, those who are ill. So I know where I come from, brother, sister. Does it matter? You heard the outcry of the public. Black Lives Matter.
Time. Wayne Spindler.
Here we go. Bringing in kids, videotaping, trying to set up people. But you see now the gig is up. You guys work with the LAPD Threat Management Unit, and you use 5150 drugging people, accusing them of not being mentally competent, to go in their homes, take their computers and their lives away from them. It's right here. The chief, Mr. Dunn, the chief of the TMU unit, wrote this. All of a sudden, he's not there. Another man took over the job in February 2016. Who might that be? Could it be somebody you know? You goddamn know who I'm talking about, don't you? You see, you guys, you're just out there, nonprofits, phony shell corporations, picnics, gifts to your friends, gifts to your doctors, gifts to your pharmacists, gifts to this, gifts to that, referrals for this, referrals for that. You are nothing but a mafia. And that's all you are. And Mr. Dunn put it in the goddamn writing. But that's why it's not there. Because fools can look and they can read English. You're going to use a 5150 as a, quote, management tool, unquote, for clients of law firms engaging in celebrity protection? Really? I thought you were here to help people with issues. No, you manufacture issues. You give it to high-priced lawyers in the entertainment industry like Mr. Johnson, who just happens to be the head of the police commission. You people are scum.
Time. Thank you. Okay, item number 2, discussion and action on requesting the City Council to revisit Los Angeles City Health Commission requirement to attend all health-related county meetings and the ordinance establishing the Los Angeles City Health Commission. And we have with us Kurt Kidder from the City Attorney's Office.
Good evening, Kurt Kidder. I'm an assistant city attorney, and I just wanted to provide some comments related to this agenda item. Of course, the ordinance establishing the Health Commission was a vote or initiative that was adopted by the City Council. So it makes it a little bit different animal than we normally deal with, and it's subject to the provisions of the state's election code on how you amend that type of ordinance. And basically, there's sort of two ways. The first way, of course, is by a vote of the the electorate, since it wasn't an initiative. And the other way is if the ordinance itself provides for amendment by some other process, and fortunately this ordinance does at Section 7 address amendment, and it allows the City Council in certain circumstances to amend the ordinance. And Section 7 says this measure may be amended to further its purposes by ordinance passed by a 2/3 vote of the City Council and signed by the mayor of the city after at least 30 days' notice has been provided to the Commission. So the ordinance itself, even though it is an initiative ordinance, does allow the City Council to amend the provisions if it basically enhances the purposes of the ordinance. So the question here is, depending on what you want to do with, and I assume you're looking at section 8.271A1 of the ordinance that requires attendance at meetings of the county entities and bodies. So depending on what the thought is in amending that provision or deleting it, I guess, is either going to require a vote by the electorate, or if it enhances the provisions or purposes of this ordinance, then the City Council could amend it itself. So I'm not sure what the Commission has in mind, but that's sort of the ground rules in regards to modifying that provision of the ordinance.
So would it be in order for us to make a motion that would strike or amend the portion of the ordinance that basically states that we need to attend all meetings?
So you could make that motion, and then the question is, well, what's going to be the process for amending this ordinance? And so that's going to basically devolve to the issue of whether that's an enhancement of the ordinance or not. If it is an enhancement, then the City Council could pass that and amend the ordinance. If it's not, then it's going to require a vote of the electorate.
Okay. So, but it's okay. We could make that motion here, though, and then the City Council could review that in consultation with the City Attorney's Office on whether or not it enhances the ordinance, correct?
Yeah, it's my understanding this Commission makes recommendations to the City Council, so
Yes.
Certainly that's within the authority of this body to make that recommendation.
Okay. Commissioner Hessrich.
Just a question in terms of enhancement, if you will. Since all is kind of a term of art, it didn't exactly spell out what we were supposed to do. If we were to come up with some kind of a specific list of things that might be most relevant, that would clarify that, maybe that would at least narrow the focus a little bit and could be construed as an enhancement rather than a change of the whole thing. I mean, we could probably, maybe not, but could come up with a list of relevant county meetings that one could define as if there's items on their agenda that were specifically focus of this commission, something like that would be enhancing by clarifying the mission, if you will. Do you think that's a feasible way to get at it?
Well, I think the provisions of the ordinance are somewhat open to interpretation. And this particular provision has a certain amount of vagueness to it that in light of the purpose of the ordinance, I think could be interpreted in such a manner that it's more focused than it is right now. I noticed that it does use the term all twice in that particular provision, which may be a little too over-encompassing for the actual purpose of this ordinance. So I think it is subject to some interpretation.
Actually, it uses it 3 times. It's attend all meetings, hearings, working sessions, and other events held on or conducted by any and all government bodies, agencies, or entities. And then further down, the city will request representation by commission members on all relevant Los Angeles County bodies dealing with health policy, where the city is not already represented. So we got 3 alls in one.
Commissioner Sharp.
Thank you, President Shannon. I would like to make a motion that the Commission requests the City Council to delete the word all from Section 8.271.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to delete the word all from Section 8.271 for the ordinance that created our City Health Commission. Is there any discussion? Okay, great. All in favor?
Just,
Please say aye.
could you just
Oh.
clarify, you're talking about all three instances where the term all is
All
used?
uses of all.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Thank you so much for coming.
Certainly, you're welcome. Have a good meeting.
Great. Okay, we have 2 comment cards. Armando Herman.
Action on requesting council to revisit Los Angeles City Health Commission. Well, didn't we ask for a motion to be implemented in the idea that this commission needs to attend the county board supervisor meetings in order to actually be productive or produce something measurable within the city, since the city uses local funds and county funds to implement healthcare? Because Eric Garcetti doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And I'm very frank. Eric doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Because in his double life, in his double role, he's too busy out of... Well, sir, let me correct you. You are not the chair. Shannon's the chair, and she will direct this meeting.
Just remain on topic.
And I am on topic. So your operation and suggestion to what you're trying to say is impractical. Nimbusos can think smarter than you.
Stay on topic.
Like a chongo,
Stay
pussy,
on topic.
punk, chunk.
Stay on topic.
I am on topic because I'm relating it to the issue you just discussed with us, which has
Go
no
ahead.
impact
Go ahead.
to adversely make my life better, but create more paperwork and burden my life with more issues of mental health that I go about advocating for all mental health issues. Not sit here on a donkey show. See? You don't like it when someone can be hombre de hombre,
Stay on
straight out
topic.
on the top.
Stay
I
on
am on topic.
Can we?
Number 2.
I'm talking about health commission's requirements. Bullshit requirements that you discuss and don't go nowhere. An issue of operation of how to use investigations as a part of your process, right? That do nothing for us. So if you want to investigate, spend time actually learning how
Time.
to investigate the real fucking issue.
Wayne Spindler. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to move on. Thank you. Wayne Spindler.
Here we go. One of LA's finest lawyers in that big law firm over there. So, you just love perjury, don't you? So, all health-related county meetings, you don't want to be bothered with your busy schedules attending these worthless meetings. All health-related county meetings. You just want to attend some health-related county meetings. Like, for example, I know one that you'd really like to attend, the Annual Threat Management Conference in Anaheim. You'd like to attend that, wouldn't you? As you hear the presentations by Mr. City Attorney and Mr. Charlie Beck on how to use your mental health resources to entrap people and screw them for the top 50 law firms in Los Angeles. That would be a meeting you'd like to attend. But there's other meetings you don't want to be bothered with, like Skid Row activism meetings. You don't want to attend that because it smells. And people don't have money where it smells. You want to be with the beautiful people. No. What do I feel? Something new and something new. The beautiful people, the beautiful people, the beautiful people, the beautiful people. Name the artist of that song. Because none of you have been out on the town in 20 fucking years, so you don't even know who I just quoted.
Stay on the topic.
And then I got Mr. Stay on the Topic here. Stay on the topic. I use perjured testimony. Stay on the topic.
Stay on the topic.
I
Number 2
have
on the
city
agenda,
attorneys
please.
documents. Stay on the topic.
Agenda item
Yes,
number
I
2.
know,
Comments,
you're
please.
a little baby. I know you just want us to be all kind.
Time. Thank you. Okay, item number 3, Commissioners, is items for future discussion. Are there any items for future discussion? I know I would like to put on the agenda for next month health-related issues to oil and gas drilling. As many of you probably saw, there was another leak at Aliso Canyon, and I think it would be great if we could delve a little farther into that. There is a professor at UC Berkeley who would like to come down next month and speak to more of the science related to the health issues. And just looking for any other items that you'd like to address next month.
If I may, I just, getting together with the subcommittees, is that scheduled yet, or how are we going to approach that?
Well,
Because
now
time
that we
is-
have staff in place from Cal State Northridge, that can begin, I guess, almost immediately, but within the next 2 weeks so that we can give
And you're going to
notice.
coordinate that through Mr. Rosales
Yeah,
there?
so we did ask for people to, if they would
Right.
like to help coordinate within the specific subgroups, or to lead those subgroups. So I did hear back from 2 commissioners so far on that.
Oh.
So we do need
Maybe you
a few,
better
a
send
few
that
more
out
to be
again,
leading
'cause I
that.
don't
Yeah.
remember.
We do want some of our folks to be leading those. Okay, any other items for discussion for next time?
Would it be, Commissioner Hawkins, would it be possible to revisit the subcommittees group topics just to make sure that we're all, because you mentioned there's 12, and maybe something
There's
we can...
7.
7. We can come down to and maybe possibly narrow it just to make sure, now that we're ready to go, that we're all in agreement on the topics.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
The only other potential subject area that may be worthy to have an input presentation on goes to the specific language in the ordinance about the way it's actually framed in terms of the plan here. It says is publish an annual health services plan. And I think in the basket of very useful and enlightening remarks, we haven't received the overview that a couple folks had talked about regarding the actual provision of, i.e. medical services in the city, which several people have interpreted to me as part of the scope of what we're hoping to look at. And so if it's of interest to the Commission, we could bring someone in who could just share a status update on what access to medical care is like in Los Angeles today compared to some number of years ago, pre-Affordable Care Act, or some other sort of benchmark to look at. Might be helpful to equip us with, at least at the group, full group level, some basic information about what's changed in the landscape of the provision of health services in the city of Los Angeles, whether that's focused on the county-delivered services, private medical services. I don't have a bias, but I think it's a subject area that we will be asked about, and it would be good for the full group to have some expert input going forward.
Okay, great. And if I could ask for someone from the Medical Care Services Working Group to come up with maybe a speaker that would that could best delineate some of the issues going on for that specific subgroup. I do like to think of our speakers who are coming as informing us for the annual report. So what if you could start thinking along the lines of what further information you would need within your specific working groups in order to come up with, in order to, one, delineate some of the needs, but also to assess some of the solutions and the strategic plan within your specific areas. I think that would be great because this is a great opportunity for us to gain a lot of knowledge as a group.
Yeah, just for example, in the area of mental health, emergency mental health care, and now I think we generally agree that's something that pretty generally is needed because the emergency rooms right now back up with folks. I'm not sure how the city would approach that, but that would be a topic, I guess, that the medical services group could at least explore and see if there are ways to encourage the availability of more facilities for emergent care of those with behavioral problems. It's one. In some respects, getting more medical care would probably have more to do with zoning and parking regulations in some ways, which is under city control. But I think we could explore some of those kinds of things.
Great.
There's
there's a mental health urgent care on the campus of MLK Hospital. I wonder if it'd be worth it to see if someone there could come and speak to that, how they got it up and running. To your point, Commissioner Hissert.
Great. Any other items for future discussion?
Commissioner
Hawkins.
A couple questions. One, I know we had requested the CAO's office several times to come talk to us about the homelessness report, and it was supposed to get pushed back to a certain date. Just wondering what the status was on that.
Do you want to speak to that?
I am impressed with your memory. That is entirely correct. In April, we were scheduled to receive a presentation. That was exact month when their budget negotiations and deliberations were at their zenith. And President Shannon and I discussed last week the value in reaching out to them again to try and schedule that as soon as possible.
Yeah, we were planning for September so that we could spend a little more time, since we have a couple speakers already, probably 3 presentations at this point. So if that's okay with the commission, I was thinking maybe September would be a good time to have them come in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other items for future discussion? Okay, we'll move on to public comment. Armando Herman.
All right, let's not be so offensive. Let me keep it down. Just to show you that those of us who operate under the business of the city as stakeholders on behalf of public interest would like to reflect that under future discussion, as you heard, who knew about the Special Management Threat Unit? How many of us? How many of us knew that this special unit was using detectives to go out and harass homeless people, jail homeless people, fill our prisons and jails up with more homeless people? Who would have thought of something so special like that? No one other than, for the record, Mr. Eric, R-E-A-D-E, Rede. Now, this detective has ambitious goals to become the next lieutenant. But there's a conflict between Charlie Chief Beck, LAPD commissioners, because, you know, it's a tag team. All the players have to roll the dice the same way. Otherwise, you get blown off like they blew off Detective Jeff Dunn, D-U-N-N for the record. This investigator is the man who perpetrated the proof of document brought out by Mr. Wayne Spindler. So, for the record, whatever Wayne Spindler is speaking about is all accurate and true. For the same reason, the courts dropped all the charges against Wayne Spindler for a public comment card like this. You see, it's not offensive. Brandenburg versus Ohio, 1969, U.S. 395-444. And even better, what about Barden, B-A-R-D-E-N versus Sacramento, Armando Herman for infrastructure?
Time. Thank you. Wayne Spindler.
So, future witnesses, and make sure you bring them here and put them under oath, because we really need to have that with a transcriber. I'd like you to bring in a couple of people next time. I won't name them, because there's a lot of uncomfortable people here right now. Very, very uncomfortable, but you know who they are. I'd like you to bring them here as witnesses, under oath, the transcriber here, and ask them some questions. Number one, am I serving on this commission? Am I committing a felony by serving on this commission? And why would it be a felony to serve on a commission? And see what they say. Maybe they won't answer you. Or maybe they'll want to have a closed session to discuss that with you in private. Did you know that? You could be committing a felony right now, serving on this commission right now at this point. You don't even know that. None of you have any idea what you're doing. And the chief doesn't have any idea what's going on in his department either. He thinks there's a leak on the 10th floor. He's looking for the source, the leak. You know, he's spending a lot of time looking for a lot of things, and he don't have to look any further than his own office. Because where it is where the buck stops. And the people in charge aren't finding out what's going on. And none of us have any business knowing what's going on, but you won't let me work. You won't let Michael Hunt work. Nobody's allowed to work. We just want to work. Come down here and have our public comment, or lousy 1 minute or whatever it is, but you won't let people work.
Okay, we will move on to item 4, which is public comment. Adam Cohen from the AIDS Healthcare Foundation.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Adam Cohen. I'm a public health consultant for AIDS Healthcare Foundation. There have been 12 confirmed cases of meningitis in LA County this year alone, and half of the cases occurred among men who have sex with men, 6 of the cases. The LA County Department of Public Health has known about this recent wave of meningitis since April, but they did not make an announcement until the end of June, despite the fact that the Gay Pride celebrations were scheduled in Orange County, Long Beach, and West Hollywood. It's our hope that the LA County Department of Public Health addresses this current outbreak with nimbleness and authority. There is no definitive plan yet for mass vaccination with community partners, and the Department of Public Health has neglected to keep the community informed and not worked as closely as necessary with community providers. I asked the Health Commission to discuss the outbreak with the LA City and LA County officials. We at AIDS Healthcare Foundation will continue to offer free meningitis vaccines, which we started doing back in 2013 during the first major outbreak. And just to clarify for anyone who's interested in a free vaccine, we offer vaccinations at our 4 Southern California wellness centers in Hollywood, West Adams, San Fernando Valley, and Long Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Angela Rupert.
Good evening. My name is Angela Rupert, and I'm running for the State Assembly of the 46th District, which is in the Valley. That includes Toluca Lake, Studio City, Sherman Oaks, Van Nuys, North Hollywood, North Hills, Northridge, Encino, Valley Village, Valley Glen, and the Hollywood Hills. I'm here to introduce myself to city leaders such as yourselves, and in particular with the commissioners who live in the Valley. Secondly, I am concerned with improving the health status of the residents in the 46th District and also in the state of California. I am concerned with healthcare disparities and healthcare costs. If elected to the state legislature in November, I will work to ensure that Los Angeles receives its fair share of resources from the various health departments operating under the auspices of the California Health and Human Services Agency. I look forward to learning more from experts like you throughout this campaign, and feel free to reach out and discuss any issues that may be of concern to you. My email is angela@angelarupert.com. And again, my name is Angela Rupert, and I'm running for State Assembly of the 46th District. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Louis Cordoza.
Good afternoon, members of Los Angeles Health Commission. My name is Luis Cardoza. I have been living in Los Angeles for 25 years. Today, I am very disappointed and sad to learn that in our county, we have 22 cases of meningitis so far this year. I remember 3 years ago, I was given the vaccination in time, but this year, I have not seen a lot of information to help the public living in Los Angeles County regarding this outbreak of meningitis. I urge you to please help us take that message to our community so everyone who is at risk will take time to get the vaccination in a timely manner. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Eduardo Martinez.
Good afternoon, members of the Los Angeles City Health Commission. My name is Eduardo Martinez. I'm the Community Outreach Manager for AIDS Health Care Foundation. I'm a Latino man, HIV positive for 30 years. I'm a resident of LA County and also a member of the LGBT community. I am very disappointed to learn today that the county knew about having known since last April that meningitis disease was developing in Los Angeles County, and it has taken more than 3 months, 1 death, and 22 cases of the disease among residents of LA County, including Long Beach and Orange County, for the public health officials to inform the LGBT community of this deadly disease. The recent outbreak of meningitis in the county of Los Angeles, according to CDC, can cause severe infections in the brain, spinal cord, and bloodstream. Meningitis is spread through casual contact. It's not spread to casual contact. It's spread to saliva, to coughing, kissing, sharing cigarettes, utensils, beverages, and joints. All of these are natural behaviors expressed by LGBT people, especially at the numerous Pride Month celebrations. And while the county knew about these events, no massive warning was issued until after the Pride activities. And finally, I just wanted to say that I want a better and more timely information system to let the public know this type of deadly disease that affect all residents of County and LA. Thank you.
Thank you. Armando Herman.
Yes, I'd like to remind you of what is anguish. As I strolled through the park, it was Grand Park. Los Angeles was anxious for the dark to arrive. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have the constraint to fear that someone is always in the rear. A good-looking fear as I appear into the night. I have a phobia that summons me alive. Always there is something watching me at night. When I raise my voice in the dark, I become alive. I found phobia that no one will survive. I can't constrain myself for fear I'm not alone. I'm the dark knight who wrote on his card, when you turn the corner sharp, reminding you of me. I am the city dark knight. And as you hear the song tonight, you'll scream for joy. Here's the remaining of I do for you, I say. Raise your hands and shout with me. The dark night is arise. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark, fear of the dark, sharp fear of the dark.
Time. Wayne Spindler.
Some people do have a fear of the dark, but I think it's more appropriate that you like to tone it down.
So let's have little kids' songs for the little kids here that can't take criticism.
Hi, Jeff. Hey, Keisha. What's up? Not much. I was just heading up to treehouse. How did you know?
Yes, they're engaged in a criminal conspiracy, kids.
Like yours. Come to the treehouse to sing a song, and lots of friends will sing along. Yep, mine's the same. What do you suppose it's all about?
We're the city. We're just innocent, nice people here.
The more we get together, the more we get together, the happier we'll be.
The more grants we get.
Treehouse? I got an invitation too. The more we get together, the more we get together, the happier we'll be.
More TROs.
My friends and my friends are your friends, the
More false arrests.
happier we'll be.
We can rely on Charlie Beck to do all our criminal work for us.
The more we get together, the more we get together, the happier we'll be. 'Cause your friends are my friends and my friends are your friends. The more we get together, the happier we'll be.
We're just one big happy family. I got the mayor in my back pocket, the city attorney convicting himself of all crimes. While I sit here, I'm Barney.
We're glad to see you, Barney.
Well, I heard you singing, the more we get together, the happier we'll be. And being together...
Piss on all of you.
Time. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you. We're adjourned. Oh, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Hawkins, I just
Commissioner
wanted to reiterate about the issue of there's so much senseless violence going on right now, and it's rampant, and it just breaks my heart across the country, just what's going on in Orlando and also in Dallas. So if possible, I wanted to go ahead and make the motion to adjourn in the memory of those senseless tragedies and all those individuals who lost their lives.
Great. Okay. Thank you.